Controversies have always been a large part of sports. Accusations fly out almost immediately if one party is unhappy with a decision. While some allegations are baseless, others come with substantial proof and believable pointers. Many controversies have surrounded one of bodybuilding's most famous names, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Let's look into one about his 1980 win in the Mr. Olympia competition. The controversial 1980 Mr. Olympia. Since emerging on the bodybuilding scene in the late 1960s, Arnold Schwarzenegger has become one of the most influential and inspiring athletes in bodybuilding. What bodybuilder or even general fitness enthusiast doesn't know of Schwarzenegger? Even if you've never picked up a weight, you probably know of the Austrian native. As a bodybuilder, movie star, politician, or environmental activist, he's so popular that you can refer to him as just Arnold, and most people know who you're talking about. Since retiring in 1980, Arnold has cast a long shadow and is still revered for his importance in helping to popularize bodybuilding among the masses. Arnold's appearance in the 1977 film Pumping Iron, the George Butler and Charles Gaines documentary centered on the 1975 Mr. Olympia, helped propel both Arnold and bodybuilding into mainstream culture. Fans and competitors owe him a great deal. Few people would dispute his legacy. From 1970 to 1975, Arnold won 6 Mr. Olympia titles. After the 6th win, he retired to focus on his then burgeoning movie career, which includes hits like Conan the Barbarian, Twins, and the Terminator series. He moved to greener pastures, or so it seemed. In 1980, Arnold shocked fans and competitors alike when he announced, the day before the Mr. Olympia contest, that he was making a comeback. The reactions were mixed. Competitor Mike Mentzer was furious and even tried to attack Arnold at a pre-contest press conference. Other athletes like Frank Zane and Boyer Coe expressed pity that Arnold was going to return, lose, and tarnish his legacy. On the night of the show, many were shocked at Arnold's condition. The Austrian oak failed to compare to a new generation of stars. When Arnold was announced as the winner, the audience booed. Competitors stepped off the stage, and some retired from the sport in disgust. Fans and competitors were outraged. Television networks separated from the competition. New rules rewarding judging were set in place. Arnold's 1980 victory isn't just controversial, it changed the trajectory and perception of bodybuilding forever. Bodybuilding after Arnold's 1975 retirement. When Arnold retired from bodybuilding in 1975, it ushered in a new age for the sport. Arnold had won the previous 6 competitions. His retirement meant that others could now compete for the Mr. Olympia title. Taking over Arnold's place was his training partner and close friend, the late Franco Columbu, who won the 1976 Olympia. From 77 to 79, Frank Zane took the honors. Although two men shared the title over 4 years, the time after Arnold's victory was competitive. With Arnold out of the way, newer bodybuilders began to gain attention. Competitors like Boyer Coe, Mike Mentzer, and a young Tom Platz. There was excitement in the sport. Arnold had previously been the athlete with the most sponsorships and magazine covers who monopolized all the media attention. Now, fans could choose from a variety of different athletes and body types. If Arnold represented the ideal physique of the 1960s and 70s, these newer athletes were progressing the standard of bodybuilding further. Zane's reign, for example, marked a stark difference from Arnold's era. Compared to Arnold's approximate competition weight of 235 pounds, Zane weighed 185 pounds on stage. He was smaller but also much leaner. His physique, by many, is considered to be the most aesthetic ever. Challenging Zane at that time was Mike Mentzer, one of bodybuilding's most controversial characters. Mentzer was known for going against the grain at the time. Whereas many bodybuilders opted for 2-hour-long training sessions with high volume per body part, Mentzer trained using the high-intensity training principles of Arthur Jones. He'd perform just 3 exercises per body part, working up to just 1 or 2 sets for each exercise to absolute failure. As for his diet, Mentzer was a proponent of calorie and macro counting before diets like If It Fits Your Macros were a fad. He'd eat protein-rich meals, but also consume treats like ice cream and pancakes, even close to a competition. In 1978, Mentzer won the Mr. Universe contest with a perfect score, the first time this happened in bodybuilding history. In 1979 Mr. Olympia, he finished in second place to Frank Zane. When Zane, Mentzer, Chris Dickerson, Boyer Coe, and Tom Platz traveled to Australia in 1980 to compete in that year's Mr. Olympia contest, few individuals could predict a winner. None could have predicted Arnold's entry. Mike Mentzer versus Arnold Schwarzenegger at the Olympia. At the 1980 year's press conference for Mr. Olympia, Arnold belittled competitors, disrupted discussions about the rules, and attempted to bring the spotlight onto himself. Mike Mentzer was so enraged by Arnold that he tried to attack him at the conference. As Mentzer was pulled away from Arnold, other competitors began to worry about what Arnold's involvement would mean the following day at the competition. One factor that appeared to reassure competitors not to worry was that Arnold's conditioning was worse than in previous Olympias. Although his chest, back, and biceps were back to former glories, his legs, triceps, and midsection all lagged in definition and size. Some put him at 90% of his former glory, others put him at 80%. The general consensus among fans and competitors was that Arnold was no longer a threat. The following day at the Mr. Olympia contest, Arnold lined up against Zane, Mentzer, and the other stars of the day. What he lacked in muscularity and leanness, he made up for with charisma. Arnold told jokes to competitors on stage to break their concentration and then jumped out of line to strike poses. Surprises continued as the judges ranked the competitors. The two finalists chosen were Chris Dickerson and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Frank Zane, the reigning champion, Mike Mentzer, the favored challenger, and Boyer Coe, sporting supreme conditioning, all failed to impress. It seemed incredible that Arnold, who many said didn't deserve a top 5 finish, placed in the final two. As the two men ran through their poses, many agreed that Dickerson would take the title. He was leaner, had more muscle, and presented a better visual package. Arnold, on the other hand, tried to hide flaws through clever posing and rely on his stage presence to win the day. At the end of the night, Arnold was declared the winner. In bodybuilding and fitness magazines, Arnold's victory was instantly criticized. Iron Man magazine had to edit testimonies from fans to remove all the explicit language used to describe the decision. Former Mr. Olympia questioned bodybuilding legend Arnold Schwarzenegger's 1980 win. Schwarzenegger shocked the bodybuilding world when he announced a comeback from retirement in 1980. Just a day before the Mr. Olympia competition, he announced he would take part in it too. But that was not the leading topic of discussion around the event. One would think a surprise return and the shocking win from Schwarzenegger were all that disrupted the event, but they'd be wrong. There was more going on than these two incidents that scarred the year's event. On the morning of the contest, 15 of the 16 participants signed a petition to abolish the weight classes and conduct the competition as one open weight class. The only athlete to not sign the petition was Schwarzenegger. Athletes questioned him about his thoughts on why there should be two classes, but Mike and Arnold had more than an exchange of words. Schwarzenegger took a shot at Mentzer's 1979 second-place finish, which got to Mike. Mentzer bolted towards him and started berating him before he was pulled out by others. Schwarzenegger ultimately withdrew his objection. Mentzer was one of the participants in the 1980 edition of Mr. Olympia. He was the Mr. Olympia champion in over 200 categories in 1979, where he was placed second overall behind Frank Zane. Mentzer was a famed bodybuilder for two reasons. He was the first person ever to receive a perfect 300 from the judges in an IFBB Mr. Universe contest, and he was one of the biggest critics of Schwarzenegger's 1980 Mr. Olympia win. During an interview, Mike said, "I get sick and tired of hearing people bring up the idea that, well, bodybuilding is subjective, so who are you to say that contests are fixed? That is not true. Anything that exists in reality can be viewed and judged objectively. There are objective criteria for judging bodybuilders." He added, "It was interesting at the 1980 Olympia. The only people who saw Arnold as the winner were the 7 judges and his closest friends." Mentzer also mentioned Yates's win a few weeks before the interview, where all the judges, competitors, and the audience thought he should win, furthering his point on objectivity. Although Mentzer and Schwarzenegger became good friends over time, Mike remained firm on his opinion up to the point that he passed away in 2001. That's all for today, folks. We'll see you next time.